Hi everybody, I'm Kamala McWhinney, Associate Clinical Psychologist and Wellness Consultant. And I want to talk to us about how we can cope with the Covid-19 pandemic. I know many people are reaching out to me saying, I'm freaking out, I don't know what to do, I'm scared. And so we're going to talk through some tips to help us to better manage our emotions, better manage ourselves, and just cope better overall with Covid-19 and prepare for the life that we're going to be living after the pandemic ends. So the first thing I want to talk about is how to label our emotions. Many people are just saying, I'm freaking out, oh my God. What does that really mean? Let's talk through some of the typical responses I have been coming across as it relates to, emotional responses related to COVID. Number one, many people are afraid. And what exactly are we afraid of? These are questions I want you to be asking yourself so you can become more clear on what you are experiencing. So many people are afraid of the uncertainty. How long is the pandemic going to be lasting? How long is social distancing going to be a thing? For how long will I have to be locked down in my home? Some people, like many of us, are afraid of contracting COVID-19 because unfortunately it's an illness that can claim lives. But I want us to also focus on not only the specifics of how we're feeling, but the overarching point for us is that we are not powerless. There are many things that we can do, and you've heard them over and over, but I want to reiterate some of them for us today. Number one, we can stay at home. And it sounds very strange, it sounds silly, but it's a major part of many countries' response to flattening the curve and keeping us healthy. All right? Stay at home. What does that mean? You leave your home only if it is essential. So some of us have been given the opportunity to work from home. That's great. Stay in, right? We can also keep our hands safe. So we can disinfect them often, wash them with soap and water as often as we can, and of course moisturize after, because we don't want to be walking around all dried out. Another way in which we can cope with COVID-19 is to not overwhelm ourselves with too much COVID news. Okay? I've heard the word COVID so many times, I'm kind of over it myself. So here's what we can do. Number one, set at least 2 times per day when you will get your news and limit it to those 2 times per day. You don't need to know every single identified case in Jamaica or in the region. You don't need to know every single time someone passes away from COVID-19. We don't need it, and it doesn't help us to cope well with what is happening. So limit it to twice a day, okay? You don't need anything outside of that. Get the major updates from the Ministry of Health and Wellness related to what you need to do in light of what is happening. The other thing is, be careful not to intake too much news leading up to bedtime, because several people have reached out to me telling me that they're having nightmares related to COVID, and that's not good. So at least two hours before bedtime is a no-no, as that should be a cutoff time for when we are stopping our intake. Okay, don't watch any news, don't read any stories at that time. Think about other things. Those are things that we can focus on to help us cope better. What about your friends reaching out to you and sharing their feelings and their freaking out and their fear about COVID-19? Here are some tips for how to manage that. Don't be afraid if you are feeling overwhelmed to say to a friend or a loved one or a colleague, boy, I feel it, but I can't talk about it right now. You can also check in with people to see how they're feeling about talking about COVID, because sometimes in simple conversations we're overwhelming each other. So check in with someone and say, boy, I saw this really scary news story last night. Do you feel like talking about it? Very simple. If they say no, respect it, because sometimes people feel pressure to keep talking about it, and that way they become overwhelmed. All right? Let's talk another coping strategy. There are some folks who have pre-existing mental health conditions. Some of us suffer from anxiety disorders, some people have major depressive disorder, and others. And especially anxiety symptoms tend to be very affected at this time. So here's what you can do if you are having anxiety symptoms. Number one, be self-aware. You need to know your body well enough to know what your triggers are, and to know when your body is getting into an anxious response state, okay? A major thing to do if you suffer from anxiety or are having anxiety symptoms now is try to focus on the now. Try to focus on the present, and again, it ties into what you can do. You're not powerless. So focus on now and don't focus on tomorrow as much. Don't focus on last week as much. Try to stay present in the now. And some people use mindfulness meditations to help with that. You can YouTube it and watch videos on how to stay mindful. So it's all about staying connected and grounded in the present moment, and therefore try to limit the stress and the fear about, oh my God, what's going to happen tomorrow? Oh my God, what's going to happen next week? Focus on now. So right now, I have 5 things that I can be grateful for. I still have a job, and if you don't, you still have skills that are marketable, yeah? So I still have some source of earning, or I can, rely on other people or form some sort of solutions around that. Number 2, I'm alive and I have some semblance of health. Focus on those. You have those. Do you have food in your cupboard? Give thanks for that and focus on that. You're having a meal. Be present in that moment. Be mindful of the fact that you're eating, and some people do not have that privilege in this time. Do you live in a space that is safe? You have a home, you have a shelter, right? Stay present in that moment and think about the fact that many people were homeless and still are homeless and are having to face COVID in those circumstances. So stay present in the moment and exercise gratitude. Another thing that we can do while we're locked up inside and we're losing our minds because we're bored, or our routine has been thrown so out of whack that we're getting stressed out. Here's what we can do to cope with that maintaining of routine. If you're working from home, you don't have to wake up as early as when you had to go catch the bus. That's a great thing. And stay in gratitude for that. But also, whatever time you do decide to wake up, try to make it consistent so you have some semblance of a routine. So try to start your day in the same way that you normally would, by having a shower, by eating something healthy, maybe exercising, having some meditation, doing some deep breathing, and then you start your daily activities. That's one way. Keep it consistent. Another way is to make sure that you have a plan for the day. No matter how small the plan is, make sure you have planned what I'm going to do, what I'm going to accomplish today. And you can reward yourself, okay, for accomplishing those tasks by maybe taking a walk, maybe eating something nice, maybe listening to a couple songs on your playlist, maybe watching one episode at a time of your favorite series on Netflix or something, okay? So keep it consistent. That's one thing that we can do to keep ourselves grounded while we're on lockdown. Thank God we still have the internet, many of us, so utilize that to stay connected. FaceTime a friend, jump on a Zoom call with your favorite people, and you can play games, you can chat and laugh and even exercise and dance together in a virtual way. So whatever you can do to stay connected, do it, because hearing the sounds, the voices of people that we love, seeing their faces is going to help us to manage our responses in this time, okay? Another coping tip for us is to manage our emotional responses to other people's suffering. So I know that many of us are empaths, and we love to give, and we love to be there for people, and we love to feel with people. Let me tell you right now, we are not able to save everyone who is struggling with COVID-19. It's the reality. So what you can do is, again, to limit your exposure to the news of those who are struggling, and understand that having a cutoff, having boundaries, does not mean that you don't care or that you're a wicked human being. It just means that you do not have the capacity to care for every single one of the 500,000 cases that exist currently, okay? We're not built to carry all of that, so let go your need to fix it and to feel for everyone. You have to take care of yourself first before you can take care of other people. And the final coping tip I want to share with us today is using this time to do some self-improvement, some personal development. Read a book you always wanted, fix up your house the way you always wanted, and something that makes all of us feel better is helping other people. Of course, in a safe and socially distant way. If you can drop off groceries for someone at their doorstep, do that. If you know an elderly person or someone who's having challenges and you can give something to them, do that. It makes us feel a whole lot better. And again, it's one more thing that we do have power over to make other people's space better. So remember, we are not powerless. We have what it takes to cope with COVID-19 and come out of this doing well.